How are you?
Good girl, you?
Good.
Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep letting people in. And what I'll do is I'll start off. I have a presentation done out, lads, and what we can do is I'll work through it, and if it works, we'll have a chat at the end. Is that okay? There's two things that I wanted to look at. One was sort of formatting for the dissertation, and the other thing is the presentation. Okay, so in terms of the formatting, so there's two things. First thing I'd really encourage you to do is the manual. There's a dissertation manual on Moodle in maybe one of the first or second sort of sections in Moodle. And that sort of gives you an overall guide to the dissertation and the rest of it. So some of this is drawn from that. So it's a good document. It's reasonably well written. So hopefully you'll be able to. It's something that you should refer back to. What I can do here, lads, on this is share the screen. You can still talk to me if there's anything that you want to say. So do speak up if you want to say something, or if there's something that isn't clear. But otherwise, I'm just going to go through it like I would a presentation, and I'll do that quite quickly. As I say, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to tape this so that you'll have it if you need it. Now, the only other thing I have here is manage participants. There might be people trying to get in, so I might notice it. So I'm trying to do way too. I'm a man. I'm trying to do way too many things at the same time.
Multitask even?
Yeah, no, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Men can't do it as well as women.
No. But so if anybody does get in touch with you saying they can't get in, just let me know and I'll let them in. But I have a little icon up in the corner here that should tell me if they are, but I'm not relying on it entirely. Okay, so I suppose the first thing to say is that the content of the dissertation is one thing, and all of you that have gotten to the stage where you've a draft submitted have a credible content to your dissertation. The second thing that you can do before you submit it in to, I suppose, tidy it up and to make sure it's, I suppose, presentable, is just make sure that the structure to the submission is correct. So you have to make sure that that the dissertation is clear, it's legible, and it has the different sections that we've listed. All of those are listed in the course manual, and as we say, it's the title sheet, it's the contents page, it's the abstract, it's literature review, it's methodology, it's findings, discussion, recommendations and conclusions, reference section, and any appendices that you want to include. They're the sections. So some people might have combined findings and discussion. That's fine. You might have two separate chapters, or you might have a slight variation on that. That's okay. That's what you need. What you need is the professional standard of English and presentation. Okay, so what we mean by professional standard of English, within reason, you need to use language that is not conversational, but more academic. By and large, everybody has done that. So I'm not enormously concerned about that. You need to submit a soft copy on Moodle, that's fine. You should have a front title page that includes the project title, the degree title, student name, and institute name printed on it, wherever. That's just aesthetic. Most of you, everybody has done that. There is a copy of one or a version of one in the document. A lot of you have made your own ones with all of those things in them. That's fine. The printing, if you're printing it out, it should be single-sided. That doesn't matter if you're just in the Word document. It should just be printed out. You know the length in the module manual. I've outlined the length of each chapter. Very straightforward. Introduction, conclusion around 1,000 each, and all the rest of them around 2,000 each, roughly speaking. You can submit a hard copy if you want us to have one for the record. We've spoken about this before. Some people do, some people don't. If you want a hard copy for our record, you submit it at a date after the Viva. It's not compulsory this year that you would. It would have been in previous years. It's not compulsory that you have one submitted this year. Okay, so that's really, I suppose, just to start, just to get started. Now, what I want to do here, for some reason it's not letting me. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what I want to look at is the dissertation sections. So it's not sections, it's really, I suppose, some of the things that we want to look at. So technically, so if you look at margins, now, I suppose before I go into this, some of you are really good at formatting documents and like doing it and do it well. If you've done it well, that's good. If you want a format to follow, this is a format to follow. If you need a format to follow. So what I would say to you is margins should be at least, so you put margins in at the standard margin, the line spacing at the standard line spacing, 1.5 space between lines, and quotes and footnotes should be single spacing. So what I mean by that is that 1.5 is a good space between lines, so it makes a big document. If you haven't done that and you've submitted, I'm not hung up on it. As I say, if your document looks tidy, that's good. But if you're looking for spacing to use 1.5. Use any non-italic text font at 11 or 12. That should be okay. Don't use a sort of a really elaborate one, but Times New Roman or any of the standard texts will do.
Is that even when we're getting even when we're taking quotations, Paul? You
do it and you use the same font throughout. If you're doing a quotation, just italicize the font.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine. When it says this non-italic font, it means not one of these, you know, some of these fonts you get that are sort of like handwriting. Nothing like that. Just a standard print font. So a common system should be used. So what the whole thing about a dissertation and presenting it is, we want consistency. So if you use a particular font and size for a particular heading, use that font size for that particular heading again. So don't change your system throughout your document. If you're using italics for your quotes, use italics throughout. If you're using indentation, use indentation out. Pagination then just means page. You need page numbers. I don't mind whether you put it in the center, the bottom, the left, or the right. Doesn't matter. I want them on the bottom, not on the top. So you put your page numbers on the bottom. And what you can do if you really want to be sort of elaborate about it, you don't need to do this, but if you know how to do it and can do it, you can put Roman numerals on your first few pages. So the contents page, the acknowledgements page, the abstract. So, but once you get into the introduction, you go page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through. You generally speaking don't put page numbers on your contents page or your abstract page.
My apologies, to interrupt again, I don't know how to do it from a middle of a text instead of so my page will start number 1, which will be the cover page. I don't know how to format it.
Okay. We'll go back to that and I'll show you how to do that.
Perfect.
Okay, so that's really, I mean, okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to look at fonts, paragraphs, page numbers and alignment, using formatting tools for headings, page breaks and section breaks, and then how to create a table of contents. That's what I'm going to do with you in a minute. All of those things. So if you feel you need to go through those, hang on with us.
Are you doing that about the presentation today, Paul?
I'm going to talk about the presentation right now, Fintan.
Right.
Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to come back to these in a minute. I want to talk about the presentation first. Okay, purely because I'm going to have to go to a Word document to do these, and I just want to get this PowerPoint stuff finished first. So in terms of the presentation, if you look at the manual, the dissertation manual, this is what it says in the presentation. It's described as an integral part of the dissertation. It provides students with an opportunity to share their work with other people and to reflect on their work and learning throughout the year. Okay, so really it's an opportunity for you. Another word for the presentation is viva. I don't really like the word viva, but anyway, that's technically the term that these types of presentations are. So the viva consists of 5-10 minute presentation on your work in a format which you're comfortable. So what I mean by that is any way you want to. You can talk to me from notes, you can talk to me off the cuff, you can do a PowerPoint presentation and email it to me. You can do whatever you want, whatever makes you comfortable. But you're going to come into the room, into the Zoom room, and I'm going to say, George, tell me about your research. And you have 5-10 minutes to tell me about your research. And then
you're talking about,
yep.
When you say that, Paul, you're talking about what way we went about it, how we collected our data, stuff in the literature review, our findings, our conclusions, and our recommendations.
Yeah, I would say if I was you, what I'd do is I'd say start with each chapter and say, okay, I'm going to tell them about what my research question was and why I picked it.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell them a little bit about the sort of stuff I learned from my literature review. I'm not going to go into that too much. I'm not mad interested in that, but anyway, I'm going to tell them a minute. You don't want to. You could go on for ages on that. You don't want to. You could say then, okay, this is the methodology I picked. This is why I picked this method. This is what I did. This is how I collected my data. This is how I analyzed my data. These are the type of findings I got. This is what I learned. And this is why my research is important. Or this is my main recommendations out of my research. There you go, Finn. That's what you need to do.
Yeah.
So what I would say is you have 5 chapters. 2 minutes per chapter. That'll bring you up to 10 minutes.
Handy.
So we're just verbalizing what we have on paper, really.
It's all it is. It's just reminding yourself of what you did. Now, if you blank or whatever, I'll ask you. Nobody's going to blank, but if you leave stuff out, just say, God, I never talked about my recommendations. We'll be asking you about the recommendations. There's no sort of consequences in terms of how the whole thing is marked that you leave gaps. We're not going to let you leave gaps. We'll ask you questions. So don't be worried that you might have left gaps. But the real opportunity with this is you telling it in your words, telling your story in the way you want it told, emphasizing the things that you think are particularly important, not leaving it up to us to drive the agenda. So here's you and your opportunity to tell your story about your research.
That suits me fine, Paul. I'm very loquacious.
I know, Fintan. Yeah, absolutely. How are you going to keep it to 5 or 10 minutes, Fintan? That's the problem.
That will be the problem, Paul.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
I might just go 10 minutes, just have a power cut, and then come back to you after. Oh, sorry, lads, the power went. Then we can go on with the question.
We control the buttons, Fintan. That's the thing. We control the buttons.
Not the power button, Paul. That's right there in front of me.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay, so I'm just saying, is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. So, right, I just want to be really clear about this. The objective of the presentation really is to hear your voice, to give you a sense, and to allow you to maximize your marks. And it's really to celebrate your achievement in terms of the research that you've done. What I found, and I've said this to anybody that's asked me, I found, generally speaking, people do better marks-wise on their presentation than they do in their dissertation. Why? Because people tend to be better able to talk about stuff that they've done necessarily than write about what they've done. So yeah, I'd be really encouraging towards you in terms of this as a positive experience. It is. If you ever do research in the future as well, it's something you will need to be able to, you need to be comfortable doing. Okay, so the last point there, you should be prepared to respond to the major points raised in your presentation, your dissertation as a whole. So you might have findings in your dissertation that are important. We might say, good, tell us, how did you do that? I might say, you know, you might have done a different type of research than what research other people have done. We might say, God, how did you find that? Or you might have used references or theoretical material that you told us was important in your research or in your literature review. We might say to you, you know, you said in your literature review that this was really important. Tell us a little bit why you think it's that important. So it's really just to give you an opportunity to elaborate on what you put into your document.
Would it be yourself and Martin only, Paul?
Say that again?
Would it be yourself and Martin only, or would it be?
No, just two people. Yeah, myself and Martin only. In your case, George.
Did you start up my one, Paul?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Who's mine?
You, me, and I'll talk to you about it. I sort of don't want to be getting who's gotten who. It's like a dating agency, lads. Okay.
Paul, there is only 7 of us on the line.
I know.
You know what I mean? There's not 104 people on the line. Like.
No. Okay. Yeah. No, it's all right. Sure, look, I'll send you an email once I get confirmation. But yeah. I'll send you. We'll tic-tac by email, Joe. Fenton, yeah. But I know it's all good. It's all. I mean, I think the main thing really, and the reason it's good to have somebody that hasn't been directly involved in it, is that you genuinely can talk to somebody who has no idea what you've done. So if you were talking to me, you might be trying to defend it to me, knowing that I know what you've done. Whereas when you're talking to Martin, or you're talking to Sinead, or you're talking to Bridget, or whoever it might be, you know that they're coming to it for the first time. So that's probably important. Okay, so what we're going to do in relation to this is that the interviews is that. So what I would say to you, lads, is if you do want us to have access to the material, you send it to us ahead of time. So if you have a PowerPoint presentation that you want to use, send it to us ahead of time. Or if you have notes you want us to see, send it to us ahead of time.
I want to surprise you, Paul. Keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
I like to keep my audiences riveted, Paul. I won't be able to do that. You know what I'm talking about.
I know you love an audience, Finton.
The gracious.
Okay. So that's really, okay. The other thing I want to draw your attention to is up on Moodle, I put a list of potential questions that we would be asking, or we could ask. So the list of questions is on Moodle. That'll be sitting in front of me and sitting in front of Martin, in your case, George, and we'll pick questions from it. There's a lot of them repetitive. We won't be asking repetitive questions, but we'll probably ask. I'll say to Martin, in your case, George, I'll say, Martin, is there anything you want to ask George? And he'll ask all of the, what I would say, really reasonably straightforward questions. And then I might come up with a tough one, you know?
Yeah.
Just on the basis, a tough one, not a tough one to trick you out, but a tough one that'll give you an opportunity to tell how much you know about the material. Because I know, like, I'll know what questions to ask you to give you the space to tell us what it is. So if I feel you haven't done yourself justice in terms of your presentation, I'll ask you a question that brings an aspect of it out that you haven't had an opportunity to share. Okay? So when I say tough, it's a question that will give you an opportunity to get more marks. Okay. So then how we're going to do this, or how I'm proposing to do this, is that the interviews will be set at half-hour schedules. They'll be 20 minutes long. We'll have 10 minutes then to chat about it and discuss it. We'll do it using Zoom as a default. Unless anybody has any particular objections, we'll use Zoom, simply because that's what we've been using up to this, and I know everybody has access to it. So I'm okay with using that.
You know, the other colleges aren't using it, Paul.
What's that?
The other colleges like UN and all that, they're not allowed to use it.
Yeah, no, some places don't use Zoom. Yeah, they don't use Zoom. Why don't they
It can
do?
be hacked.
Yeah, see, this is why I use Seamus Hines, because I have a commercial license, Vinton. So I've paid for this, or I haven't paid for it. Seamus Hines paid for it, and I'm using his password. So it's when you use
More secure, yeah.
it's when you use the free version of it.
Yeah, yeah.
People who want to can get in. They can't get into it when you pay for it. So
Yeah.
that's why I've always used this.
Excellent.
Okay. So people can't get in. But yeah.
I would do some laughing point if we got hacked in the middle of mine. I think that would be very impressive.
If you got hacked in the middle of it.
Mhm.
Well, if anybody's going to get hacked in the middle of it, Fintan, I'd say it could be you.
No,
Okay, so we keep going. The second thing, there will be the second reader present. Okay, what I will need from all of you, either a telephone number from you as a backup, or that you have my telephone number that you can ring me. Okay, so if your internet or my internet, if the global internet crashes, then at least we can continue with the discussion by phone. So at least we have a way of communication. I think I have that with everybody, but I just want to make sure beforehand that I do. I'm not asking people for their telephone numbers. If they're not comfortable giving me their telephone numbers, feel free to take my number and you use that and you can ring me.
Paul, I certainly wouldn't be comfortable without a vodka.
Without what?
Without a vodka or two, you know what I mean?
Right,
And
yeah.
I'm very open then once I have a couple of drinks with me, Paul, that number will go to anyone.
Yeah. I change my number every year. I'm only joking.
Such
But
the
no,
hunter you are, Paul.
no, but it's just to make sure that we have, if you want to provide a written presentation, a PowerPoint or whatever, but you don't need to, but if you want to, just email it to me in advance. And what I would ask you to do as well, and this just to make life easier for everybody, is if you have transcripts, I'll put up a spot on Moodle where you can put your transcripts. Now I know, Fintan, you've included them in your document, which is fine. You can do that either. You could put a document in Moodle with your transcripts, but if you haven't your transcripts included in your overall dissertation as an appendix, I'll put a place where you can just put it all into one document and send it to me. Why do I want to do that? If you're face-to-face doing a face-to-face interview, then you'd have your transcripts with you and I'd be able to look at it. I just want evidence that there is a transcript to the interviews that you've done. George, your situation is obviously different.
Yeah.
Okay. And anybody that's done quantitative, send me a copy of a printout of the, whether it's the raw data, so the SurveyMonkey or SPSS or whatever it might have been. Okay.
We're going to have to have them available on that day, though, Paul, on the day of the presentations, aren't we?
You're going to have to.
I'm going to have something here with my 6 interviews on it. So if you say, Bitten, can you play me a bit of interview 6? I have to go, yeah, okay.
Absolutely, you do, yeah. So you have
we can
to
delete them. They're taking up an awful lot of space, Paul, on my stuff. I can delete them after that.
You get rid of them the day you get your results, they're gone.
The day I get my official results.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm just saying that to you, Finn, just on the basis that if there's a problem, what problem might there be? If there's a problem, you need your dissertation to be available to an extern to look at it if there needs to be a review of the mark or if there's something like that happens. So you need to have everything for an extern in the event that you in the event that you want to challenge, or in the event that we are unhappy with something.
Yep, okay.
Okay. But once you get your mark and you're happy with your mark, you can get rid of them. You can delete them, or you have to delete them. I think everybody said that they would in the theoretical approval. That's it, lads. That's all I was going to do about the presentation.
So we have to be able to play them on the day if needs be, Paul, yeah?
If needs
Just
be.
have the, okay, perfect, that's
Have
great.
them there. So I mean, we're not going to be precious about it. To be honest, we know the limitations there is in terms of technology, but you know, if it was a face-to-face one, we might say, you know, could you play us interview number 6, and somebody just so that we have evidence that you did what you said you did.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to stop that share, and that's really it. The only other thing that I wanted to do then was just go through some of the formatting stuff. And any of you that are sort of cool with formatting in terms of Word, you're okay. You can check out or whatever.
I see, lads.
Fintan is gone. We can have the crack now.
Yeah, fuck off.
No.
How do I get?
You're leaving me the only mail, Fintan.
You were the only male there anyway. What about him?
Leave
What about
meeting.
Paul?
Good point.
Go over this page.
I don't count.
How do I get out of this?
No.
Hey.
It's on the bottom right. Leave meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Good luck.
Bye.
See you, Fintan.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Guys, I'm gonna go as well before you start, Paul. Sorry, I'm gonna go.
Okay, man.
Best of luck, everyone.
Bye, Max.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay. I'm just going to go through this quickly, lads, if that's okay. Okay. Right. So what I was going to do was just show you a couple of things in relation to in relation to, this is always hard to find when I'm on this. Show all windows. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. So this is, can you see that? Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get rid of this here. Okay, so what I was looking at is you can take this, one of the, I'll maybe start in terms of font and the rest of it. So like, if you want to change the font, I'm assuming everybody knows that you can go up to the font here, change the font size over here. What I would say to you is, generally speaking, Calibri, Arial, Times New Roman, all of those, the standard fonts are perfectly fine. If you want to do headings and a table of contents, this is the way you do it. So just say this was my heading. You highlight what you want as your heading, and you go up here. Do you see what I'm doing? Up here to the headings.
Yeah.
And so what it does is it calls that heading 1. Sorry, you take that off. So if you, I can undo this. So if sometimes what it does is it makes the whole lot heading. So you can go back to normal, but it makes this heading 1. So you highlight the thing you want as a heading. You highlight the thing that you want as the heading, and you make it heading 1. So that becomes your chapter heading. So just say within your chapter, you have another heading. So you want this heading to be, so that's your literature review, and this is your first heading. You make that heading 2. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then if you have another subheading, you can make this heading 3. And just say so you have this heading, you can do, so this is maybe chapter 1 point. And you can work with it. And just say this is 1.1. And this is 1.2 or 1.1.1. That's how that will work out. So that's really how you, and you can go back here that this is 1.2. So that goes back to heading number 2. So that's your headings. So that's how you do, And just say this is another chapter here. So chapter 2. You go back and call that heading 1. 2 point, and that's another chapter there. So that's how you do headings. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what it does is it's okay. I never use headings. I never put headings in until I've absolutely finished a document, because they are a pain in the arse when you're editing a document, because they just get in your way. Like now, I want to move this down, and it kind of puts another heading in beforehand, so I have to get rid of that, and now I have to call this back. So if you haven't put in headings, use headings up to this, you're doing it at the right time. Do it when you're finished and you have your document the way you want it, and you can put in your headings then. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next thing I want to show you is, once you have your headings, right, you have your headings in, and you want to put in a table of contents. Now, some of you will know a better way of doing this, but the cleverest way of finding ways to do complex formatting is just put it into the search bar. So put in table, T-A-B-L-E, of contents. So what it does, it asks you what type of table of contents you want to put in. So I say I want this type. This is the type I like. And what it does is it puts all your headings ordered in a table of contents. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The other reason it's good to leave this to the very end is because if you start changing tables, it becomes a bit of a nightmare. Wait till you know what all your tables are and just do this at the very end. Is that okay? Okay, so that's how you do table of contents. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Yeah, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Until you start trying it. But it's not hard. What I would say is, don't play with it. Don't play around with it. Leave it till you have all your headings decided. Leave it till you have the whole thing done, and just do it at the very end. Because it gets in your way when you're trying to edit a document. And the other thing is that if you need to update the table of contents, you have to update it. It can become a bit of a mess. Okay, so that's table of contents. The next thing I wanted to, like, strictly speaking as well, lads, when you're doing a dissertation like this, the line spacing we said is space and a half. Okay, so it ends up like this. That's what it looks like. That's the type of spacing that they want. I like documents that are aligned like that. So from one side to the other. You can do that as well. Other people like that. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but be consistent. Don't have some bits of it aligned and other bits not. Don't have some bits spacing. So you can see that looks nice and it's easy to read. Okay. Is that okay? So that's how you do that. The next thing you want to do is insert page numbers. Insert page numbers over here, yeah? Okay, so what you can do is you can format page numbers. And this is your issue, George. Start at page 3. So that skips your title page, the next page, next page, next page.
I tried doing that already, and it will start at number 3 from the first page. At
Okay.
the cover page will be number 3.
Okay. Okay, so that's okay. Hang on a sec. Okay, so what you can do then is you can go page numbers. So it's not allowing you start. Let me see. You can fix that. Okay, that's unusual. That's unusual.
Yeah, that's what I've tried it already, and the cover will be starting at, for example, I've done it from 3 or done it from 4, and it will still start at number 4.
Okay. Right. Okay, well, what you need to do is send me on that, George.
Yeah.
Okay. Usually these things are reasonably easy to fix. But generally speaking, that does work okay.
Are we starting our page number on chapter 1? Is it so?
On your literature, on introduction.
Introduction, yeah.
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 That's why I done the Roman numerals. Well, I tried doing the Roman numerals by hand beforehand, but it still sort of jumbles them up.
Okay. Don't get hung up on it. These type of things can take an awful lot of time. If you end up at a title page 1, it's not a major issue. But we'll try and fix it. If you're having problems with it, send it on to me, George, and I'll try and fix it for you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, on any of these things, don't spend more than a half an hour. If you find yourself spending an hour on it, it's not worth it. Send it on to me and I'll try and fix it.
We won't lose marks, if anything, though, on it, if the numbers are 1 from cover page.
If you let me know you're having a problem, and if I can't fix it, you won't lose marks, no.
Perfect.
Okay, but you do need to put page numbers, because the page numbers then reflect back onto your table of contents. Okay, so the next thing just to be conscious of is, generally speaking, if you're starting a new chapter, you start on a new page. So what you need to do is insert page breaks. Are you all okay with putting in page breaks?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just put a page break. So just insert a page break. What can challenge people is if any of you are putting in landscape, if you're changing from portrait to landscape, that can be problematic. And what you need to do is put in a section break and a page break together. I don't think any of you are doing that.
Nope.
I don't think anybody has documents in landscape. So I wouldn't worry about that. What I would say, just in terms of formatting, a couple of small things. Just say this bit here is a quote. Generally speaking. Just say that this is a quote that you want to include. Sorry, it would be like this. Generally speaking, if it's more than 20 words in the quote, which this one is, if you go to review that and go to word count, there's 35 words. Generally, this is how you present it, is you put it there and you indent it in. So if it's less than 20 words, you just include it in the body of the text. If it's more than 20 words, you indent it. And that's true, and you italicize it. So generally speaking, you italicize quotes. And if they're more than 20 words, you take them out of your paragraph and you put them you do this with them. I'm not hung up on it. But it actually looks well in your dissertation, because it breaks it up as well. But if it's less than 20 words, just italicize it and put it into your, and that's quotes either in your literature review from other authors or quotes from participants if you're doing qualitative research. Okay, so that's table of contents, headings. What else did I say I was going to do? Oh, let me see, I'll go back. Okay, table of contents, page breaks, section breaks, headings, page numbers, alignments, font and paragraphs. Yeah, that's really what I said I was going to do.
Are you listing your appendicitis at the end of your table of contents, Paul, yeah?
Yeah, so what I would suggest that you do with that is something like, so your list of it, so what you do at the end of your document, so you finished your discussion, you finished your conclusions, you have your reference section, and you can do it one of two ways. APPENDIX1, Appendix 1, consent letter. Okay, and then you have your consent letter. And on the next page, you have Appendix 2, which is something else. So Appendix 2, interviews.
You don't have to have it down at the bottom of your table of contents, though. You can leave it out there, can you?
No, I'll show you this here. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to say, okay, so you're going to put that in a new page, and you're going to put this in a new page as well. What's after happening to me, just to say to you why this is a bit clunky, is that I'm after getting a new version of Word, and I'm after losing where I find all the stuff on the old version. But anyway, so what you do, Mary, is this, is you go up to your Appendix 1 and you highlight it and you go to Home, right? And you put it in as a heading number 2 or a heading number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say we're going to make it a heading number 1. And then we're going to go down to the next one. And this is when you've it all done, you're going to make this heading number 1 as well. Okay? So you've made your titles of your appendix headings, and then you go back up to your contents page and you right click on it and it says update field. And you say update field numbers, update the entire field, and you go, oh, like, okay, and it includes your 2 appendix.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you right click on it, update everything, and it includes the appendices into your table of contents. You don't need to do anything.
Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
Does that make sense? Okay. Now, here's a trick I do. It's not a good trick, but when I get really annoyed with my table of contents, just say I have my table of contents in there and I'm trying to, sometimes it can be hard to move it around. One of the things you can do is you can copy it, paste it out of the table of contents, just make it an ordinary Word document again, or make it ordinary text again, because sometimes the format that it gives it in can be awkward. So okay, so what I'm saying is I can take that, I can copy all that text, I can take it outside and I can paste it. Sorry, I can paste special and so on. So it gives me all the headings without it being in this sort of format. So what I can do is I can arrange it myself, you know, without having to type it out, and then get rid of the other thing. But I wouldn't do that unless you're finding the contents, table of contents, awkward to use and to manipulate, you know? The reason I'm saying it, some people have so many headings that your table of contents can take up 2 pages. And if it spreads into 2 pages, it can look really awkward. So instead of doing that, what you might do is just decide, okay, I'm going to do my own table of contents, but I'm going to copy and paste all of the material from the table of contents here, copy it and paste it and make it into just ordinary text, and I'll play around with it. So it saves you having to type the whole thing out again. Okay, come here. I'm going to introduce you to somebody here. This is my my assistant. She's making me biscuits. Are they all made?
Yeah.
And is everybody downstairs happy that you made so many biscuits?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Good, good. This is Anna. Are you going to say hello? Are you going to give a little wave?
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, off you go. They smell, oh lads, you're missing out badly. They smell very good.
Star Baker.
Yeah, Star Baker. That's anything at all to get sugar into her. That's what she does. It's yeah, it's not the baking, it's the sugar.
Oh,
And the
the
butter.
after effects are the best part.
Oh look, don't talk to me. We'll zoom back in half an hour and we'll all be bouncing around the house and there'll be no dinner eating and the rest of it. But anyway, look, the joys of it. So that's it, lads. I mean, my advice to you is this is how I look on formatting. If you trust your judgment in terms of it looking well and looking neat, go with how you do it yourself. If you show it to somebody else, ask them, do they think it's neat? If they say, Jesus, it's all over the place, then start following the rules that I've given you. You know, use consistent font, use the headings, the whole lot. All you really want it to be is neat and consistent. I don't know how many marks are going for formatting. There might be 10%. It's in the manual. In the manual, all the marking is in the manual. So it isn't a huge amount. But the thing about it is that when I'm reading the document, when the second reader, when the extern may be reading the document, it makes a bigger difference than the marks, purely because it's easier to read a document that looks well. So if one of you if you're saying, Jesus, I didn't use the page numbers the exact way, and you're not going to lose marks for that, George. I'm saying nobody's going to take marks from you. The only thing is you'd like it to be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I sort of, if it doesn't come, for example, on the cover page is number 1. When I refer it into the table of contents, do I still miss them first 5 pages? Or do I start?
No, it won't. It will, but that's not, I mean, it's not a deal. It's not a problem at all. As long as, the only thing is that as long as if it says in your table of contents, literature review starts on page 25, as long as it does start on page 25. Brilliant. And it's page 25 is the number. So because all that might happen is that myself and Martin will be looking at your document. There might be something on page 23 we want to ask you about. And we could say, George, could you open page 23 there, or go to page 23, and you open it, and you can. So as long as the numbers are correct, whether it starts in the right place or not, I'm not enormously concerned with. It's not a problem. We'll try and fix it. If we can fix it, happy days. If not, not a problem. But what I would be more concerned about it, George, is if your headings aren't right. Headings are important, okay, because it shows the structure of your thinking. view, I'm just going to see if I can put up something here, navigation plane. Okay, so if any of you, and this, I always use this when I'm writing a document like this, is if you go to view and you go to navigation pane, what it does is it gives you all the headings on the side here. So if you're working in your document, you can see, and you can actually go, you can go to the different places. Sorry. You can go to different places in the document. So it's handy when you've done headings done out. It's handy because this yoke helps you navigate when you're in the document. It helps you navigate around it as well, you know, so it's good. That's it, lads.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop. Sorry, I'm going to stop the. Oh no, sorry, I stopped the share there. Stop the share. Yeah, okay, that's it. And like, sure, look, I'll put it up on Moodle, and you'll have it then if you want to take a look at it again. But hopefully it's true. And if you have any major problems, give me a shout.
Oh, can I ask a question before you go?
Yeah.
In my appendix,
I stopped the recording here, Claire.